The 2nd of May, 2022. Hi, so thanks for tuning in to my official YouTube channel. Make sure to like my official YouTube video, subscribe to my official YouTube channel, and go to my website, www.susanmealing.com. So, it is going on 3 months since I have seen the evening skyline for the first time of the New York City area from a location that I'd actually recognize since 1998. So those types of people that may have an attitude issue regarding my viewpoint, literally, really don't have a right to complain at all, in my opinion, mainly because of the facts in reference to any individual, such as my biological mother, and or my biological father, and or my biological sister, in regards of the New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania areas. So this is my personal opinion because of what I've experienced. And so any additional factors into any of those connections do need to remember to keep that in mind. So while on my website, www.susanmealing.com, in my journal blog, The Ornery PSA, the facts are as the facts are. It's the reality. You have my fact books compared to my fiction books for the genres, for that understanding, in addition to the facts that have been capable to be clarified and verified. So anybody who may have an issue, similarly to my earlier video for today, as far as the 2nd of May, 2022, anybody that has a problem with my processing of have not seen the New York City skyline in an area face-to-face in person from a location that I'd actually recognize from the time frame of 1998 to 2022, a whopping 3 months ago, you have no right to be upset at all, in my opinion, especially if it's in the capacity as to a similarity as to those types that I refer to in my earlier video from my official YouTube channel, from my official link that you can share the link to. And so I have also detailed through my official YouTube videos for my official YouTube channel and my website and my work, my books, etc. to keep that in mind. So I've additionally, especially in regards of since the updates from 2019 through 2022 regarding my journal blog, The Ornery PSA, on my website, www.susanmealing.com, in regards of a comparative aspect. So for those in the state of Texas who have known in person, face-to-face in person, my biological mother and or my biological father and or my biological sister, and obviously in reference to myself. Now, if you've only known of me, well then that's a different capacity. to this in-person, face-to-face in-person aspect that I'm referring to. However, you are capable to evaluate that information for yourself. Because unlike some people, I actually believe in individuals' rights to actually research the information for themselves for the clarifications and verifications, as well as the accuracy, despite what some information might be as far as what has whatever patterns of behavior. So this goes into patterns of behavior. So in regards of people in the state of Texas and or the state of New Jersey, because of that combined factor in reference to New Jersey. So obviously in New Jersey in the 1980s and 1990s, the four in reference to my biological mother, my biological father, my biological sister, and I, in the state of New Jersey, anybody who needed clarifications as to the actual differences, you have the capability of referring to the situations regarding my biological mother, biological father, and biological sister in the state of Illinois as to their choices. Despite from 1998 to 2000, my actual presence in the area. However, because of the aspects which Illinoisans in the Crystal Lake area would be capable to look into for that, the time frame from most specifically, yes, 1998 through 2000, though also in addition from 2000 through 2003. Now here in this reference of Illinois, you have the time frame of a broken down situation because you in Illinois have something that other areas do not. You have a combination that others have only bits and pieces. So from 1998 to 2000, you have the viewpoint of the state of New Jersey and the tri-state area as to my biological mother, my biological father, my biological sister, and I. You additionally in Illinois have the viewpoint as to the state of Texas to a degree because of my biological mother, my biological father, and my biological sister without me. Additionally, you have both aspects in a secondary way of the tri-state area as well as the state of Texas as to just my biological mother and biological father, when my biological sister and I were in the state of Texas. The state of Texas has that first in regards to just me in person, face-to-face in person, for these patterns of behavior to look into. Then you have the outside sources as far as the state of Texas is concerned, which obviously includes Fort Sam Houston and Wilford Hall most specifically, though the city of San Antonio as to Military City, USA. So Military City, USA, San Antonio, Texas, as well as Fort Worth, because of my ex-in-laws, has that with just me before anything else. Though they additionally, in regards to Fort Worth, obviously my dead ex-husband, my children's biological father, as to that background and those connections to those patterns of behavior. So in this logistical breakdown for those psychological references to look into as to the patterns of behavior, you then in the city of San Antonio have 2000 to 2003 as to those situations. Then additionally, in regards of just me, and then the outside aspects, in reference to my now dead ex-husband, as well as those other aspects, from 2000 to 2000, well, more so October, November timeframe of 2000, specifically regarding my now dead ex-husband, to 2003. So then, in that combined aspect, you then have my biological sister and I, as well as my now dead ex-husband, as far as those combined factors of in the city of San Antonio, as well as Fort Worth, and the outside sources, as far as those patterns of behavior, as to the differences, as to those situations. In addition, though, my son and my daughter that I took care of as best as I could, being their mom, their only mom, the only one who did everything possible without any assistance except for medical aspects because of the reality in reference to my son and my daughter. So in reference to my son, in the year of 2001 onward, in reference to my daughter, in the year of 2002 onward. Yes, there is the reality of my subarachnoid hemorrhage in the frontal lobe of my brain at the time from my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000 during basic training of what was said as Fort Sill, Oklahoma. And then my headaches, migraines, memory deficits, and cognitive disorders, as well as the having gone from college algebra with trigonometry and calculus to second grade math, though there is still all of the rest of my educational background in conjunction with my experiences in all capacities. However, in a starting point where I did not remember officially in the year 2004 regarding the oak leaf, for those who remember, I did not have the official memories to put into words regarding my childhood and my teenage years. I knew certain factors, I just couldn't verbalize it. So you have that in regards of these patterns of behavior to take into consideration additionally. So when you take 2003, regards to San Antonio, as well as Fort Worth, and then the state of Texas, you have the first initial aspects of this particular breaking down into the specific patterns to look into. 2003 around July, maybe August of 2003, through to about October, November of 2003 of my biological sister on her own, despite my being the legal guardian, as well as the sponsor, as far as my blue ID card. You have that to take in consideration as well, on top of the other factors in reference to my dead ex-husband and his time in college, while my biological sister was in high school and dance. So then, with all those combined outside factors, in October, November timeframe is when the state of Illinois, having just had Mike and Anna on their own, those capacities, without my biological sister, without myself, as to those experiences as to how they handled themselves. Which you have a central point which you may not have realized. So then, in those particular factors, while Patricia was doing however she chose, in regards to high school and dance and all that stuff, you have those patterns of behavior. Not just in person, face-to-face, in-person texts, but also through online, through cell phones, through emails, through phone calls, etc. On top of that, Fort Worth as well. So then it gets to a different pattern of behavior. You have Mike, Anna, and Patricia in San Antonio, which again, Illinois, would be capable to clarify and verify, but so too in reference to the tri-state area, because remember, there are the times that they decided to go out to the tri-state area, and however that went in regards to Old Tenet Presbyterian Church, as I was informed in the year of 2020, when I went out to Old Tenet Presbyterian Church in reference to the huge divide among the congregants. So maybe certain congregants at Old Tenet Presbyterian Church still hadn't learned. Because remember my nightmare from 2nd grade. Remember the aspects of my warnings in regards to the original pastor. Remember all those factors as to what happened by the timeline sequence of facts to the actual basement having been dug. Well, similar to this area where Wilford Hall is, you literally lack the land. You just have the supporting portions because of how that basement was built. So you have this vast, empty area underneath the foundation of what was Old Tenet Presbyterian Church. In comparison, because of how the church was built. So you have that supporting portion, and then that emptiness. However you choose to view that symbolic factor. Whatever your choices as to those patterns of behavior for a larger capacity of the external sources in those references. Patterns of behavior. Each one. So whatever in regards of Mike, Anna, and Patricia, and whatever situations as far as you can take that in consideration, Illinois and Texas. But yet, there's not a point in time where it's really just me on my own in a more official yet, despite the situation capacity. So you have in the city of San Antonio, 2003 through 2008, as far as Mike and or Anna and or Patricia and or I, as well as my now dead ex-husband who is my children's biological father, as far as the additional factors of myself with my son and or my daughter, depending on what doctor appointment, and the situations in reference to Gymboree or whatever, stay-at-home mom group or whatever, as far as how protective I have been as best as I could. But additionally, you have those medications that I told these doctors they were not assisting. So they were literally going against what I had told them was not helping me. So those factors of which I had repeatedly said, no, this doesn't work well, this doesn't do this, and I was honest. Including, for one particular reference, I actually contacted the hospital in reference to Depakote specifically. Because I was seeing 2 of everything. And the way that went. Being honest though. And so in that reference of those factors and whatever combined situations, what is the definition of informed consent? It's so important. So, didn't want to deal with certain things. Now, you have 2008 specifically to take in consideration. So you have the time frame of January 2008 to April of 2008 of experiences regarding the state of Texas overall. Then you have April-ish or May of 2008 through December of 2008 for that breakdown to take into consideration. My son and my daughter having been in elementary school by this point in time. Carrollton, Texas, as well as the DFW area. You have just me in the official capacity while being a mom to my son and my daughter. Though that external aspect, what is consent in comparison to what occurred. So Illinois would be capable to refer to the state of Texas for any questions that Texas and or the tri-state area might have in regards to those particular situations. So then from 2009 to 2010 in the DFW area, as well as the San Antonio area, regarding myself and or with my son and or with my daughter and or just by myself, as far as those particular situations, which then you have the Austin area 2010 to 2011 as to those patterns of behavior that you can piece together. Then you have those factors not just there in Austin, but also San Antonio and DFW, just in reference to me by myself and or my son and or my daughter with me, depending on the situation, to those patterns of behavior that you can link together. In addition to that, then you have 2011 into the beginning of 2012, but realistically the end of 2011, to those situations, patterns of behavior, situations, whatever the external portions thereof are, as to the proof. And again, Illinois is capable to give those references as far as those situations for that time frame because of the smaller chunks of time. That's why Illinois actually has a larger capacity because of the smaller chunks of time. And which combinations of as to my biological mother and or my biological father and or my biological sister by themselves and or whatever combination of, because Illinois is the only one that would have that in comparison to New Jersey, which New Jersey has that, but only in smaller sections of time, very small sections. You have a week or two at most because of my going to Baptist Camp Lebanon and those particular situations. But what can be found in those particular combined patterns of behavior is capable to be found. Not just in reference to myself on my own, but in reference to Mike and or Anna and or Patricia and their combinations of whether individually or whatever combination, as to patterns of behavior to the combinations in the state of Texas. So then you have 2012. As far as me, with my son and or my daughter, or just me on my own. As to those patterns of behavior, then the additional factors in regards to my biological mother and or biological father and or biological sister, and at the same time still doing what I can to tell these doctors that certain prescriptions are just not doing anything that actually assists me. I explain this in person, face-to-face in person to multiple what have yous, and then put it in writing in regards of finding a silver lining, which you can go to my website, www.susanmaylane.com, as far as my books section, as well as the Ornery PSA, my journal blog. I have done some official videos for my official YouTube channel, because when you take in consideration the proof and clarification as well as verification as to the needless problems from my biological sister and or my biological father and or my biological mother, you see why it is mine and not theirs, because I have my right to choose, literally having been emancipated in regards of Marine and Science Technology School because of how that was. Secondary time, 1999 into 2000, because of how that was and how it remains and how it is. So you have those patterns of behavior. Now go into 2013, and that as the individual points in time. Having explained quite a bit of situations, more so though in reference to 2013, more so in writing than any other way. Yes, there were in-person, face-to-face, in-person situations, but the culmination of, because you have to take in consideration San Antonio 2012 into 2013 as to those factors of those patterns of behavior. Now, here's where there's the separation, where it's the distinctive factors, where in comparison to the initial year, but not even a full year because of the way medical hold unit went, you have the outside influences of whatever needless capacity of that can be combined to Washington State area. So that short amount of time when I was in medical hold unit before the situations regarding my dead ex-husband, my children's biological father, you have this small amount of time which Fort Sam Houston Medical Hold Unit, or now Warrior Transition Unit individuals, that includes those CID and the different garrison and commanding areas, including JAG, and so on and so forth, to the comparison of that short amount of time regarding whatever external needless influences, as far as whatever needless problems from whichever area thereof capable to be found, to the comparisons of the overall area of Washington State and Oregon State, where it's just me to a degree though in Oregon for certain capacities, because of course having had my son, but how my son and I wound up in Washington State after the Cowboys Dance Hall Stoney LaRue concert in March of 2013, and whatever needless problems from that. So, then you get to more so in the state of Washington regarding the SeaTac area. This is the area, SeaTac, most specifically Club Sapphire. You know what external, outside influences compared to in-person, face-to-face, in-person with me. As to whatever I took care of, whatever I handled. Club Sapphire, most specifically, as well as that business area, knows as to how I had been. Can give certain references regarding medical hold unit, as well as, similar to Illinois, certain other factors, but not in the same capacities of. Because Illinois doesn't have that regarding me. Because of, while there is not even a full 12 months in total regarding school at Crystal Lake South, in all honesty, because of just me being in that school in comparison to New Jersey, where there's Asher Holmes Elementary School and Marlboro Middle School and Marlboro High School, aside from the part of Mass in conjunction with St. John Vianney High School. Crystal Lake South has certain aspects. So they would have the knowledge at Crystal Lake South for the less than 12 months as to whatever situations regarding my biological sister as to Asher Holmes when she started going to kindergarten. And that aspect, the individuals from New Jersey, most specifically Asher Holmes Elementary School and Marlboro Middle School and Marlboro High School and St. John Vianney High School, would be capable to go and speak with in regards of Crystal Lake South High School as far as whenever my biological sister opened her mouth. Though that would be in 3rd grade in reference to Asher Holmes Elementary School, for those who have an obvious better memory than I as to the details as to the situations from 3rd grade to 6th grade in Asher Holmes Elementary School, before the additional factors of the other schools that combine to make Marlboro Middle School, and so on and so forth. So then in Washington State, on the most consistent capacity, you have Club Sapphire, where I volunteered, where I do what I could, where I could. So in the aspect of Club Sapphire, you have the viewpoint as to how I was at Old Tenet Presbyterian Church. You also have the distance factor as to my biological mother and or my biological father and or my biological sister and or any of their connections and or my ex-in-laws as to whatever other situations as to those factors. As to whether or not whatever those people had claimed in comparison to what you saw with your own eyes, in person, face-to-face, in person, compared to whatever claims, whatever, and yes, the acknowledgement of the after effects of my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000, the after effects from the subarachnoid hemorrhage in the frontal lobe of my brain from my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000, that 8.5 years that it took to dissipate, but the after effects from that as well, because of my headaches and my migraines and my memory deficits and my cognitive disorders. But now, you also have my issues with technology that people in the state of Texas didn't believe, whether in scuba diving or not. That's something Club Sapphire has that only a very few individuals in medical hold unit would know from in-person, face-to-face, in-person seeing. So you have that as far as what I dealt with as far as zapping. That includes my hairstyle because of what I had to deal with while in the situation and figuring things out where I could as best as I could because of everything that was going on. Those proverbial piecing together the puzzle, but actually seeing the individual puzzle pieces at the exact same time. So Club Sapphire, whether you were someone who worked there or whatever as far as the building or the company itself of what have you, and or just attended or volunteered or whatever in that capacity of. So you in the Club Sapphire aspect have a perspective that is similar, though completely different, but unique to yourselves. Because you have the capacities as to Club Sapphire to clarify the situations in reference to whatever claims regarding the state of Texas, and or the aspects as to Illinois, and or the aspects as to New Jersey and the tri-state area overall, and or the aspects along the East Coast, additionally, and or the aspects during my Medal of Honor art project trips. Despite you not having seen in-person, face-to-face, in-person officially, these situations thereof to that massively huge difference, I'm going to guesstimate in comparison to whatever claims, because you'd have that in-person, face-to-face, in-person, the knowledge of, and whatever discussions in person, face-to-face, in person. So while yes, I created my website and I was working on my Medal of Honor art project stuff, which I didn't deny at all. I discussed my Medal of Honor art project. I informed people that I had a website, I just didn't say the name of my website. Because I explained that I did that regarding my Medal of Honor art project artwork pieces, so that way, when I went on my trips, during my Medal of Honor art project trips, that if there was ever the need, I'd be capable to. I just didn't say the name of my website. I had my card in the lobby area because of just discussing one or two pieces in comparison to discussing my books, in comparison to discussing my artwork, in comparison to discussing my journal blog, The Ornery PSA. Usually I was just talking about my Medal of Honor art project work because of all of the work that it took. And so unless I was asked, similar to those recreational civilian scuba diver types, and or whatever involvement in regards of that from 2009 through 2013 to take in consideration regarding those people. So now, then you have 2018. So from 2015 to 2018, Club Sapphire has the capability to see exactly how I was in any community at all. Club Sapphire is the only one that has that. The overall Washington State to a degree as well. So you have the capacity of seeing when I was living in the San Antonio area, whether from 2000 to 2008 or from 2012 to 2013. Additionally, Club Sapphire has the capability of seeing, as well as the Washington State area, in reference to from 2015 to 2018 most specifically, though additionally, yes, in 2019, but more so the more common, more consistent aspects. You have the DFW area, and those references. Then, and that would be 2008 through, but technically 2000 to 2008 because of traveling there. So that's the overall Washington State. But also Club Sapphire. Additionally, from 2008 in regards of the DFW area to 2010, though also that brief amount of time from 2010 to 2011 in the Austin area. As to that view, as far as Club Sapphire most specifically, though also the Washington State area or SeaTac area more for that reference. And then you have the time frame of 2011 into the beginning of 2012 for that reference regarding Club Sapphire, and additionally towards the 2012 to 2013, again, I already referenced that, though in regards of 2012 to 2013 San Antonio, with a smidgen as to the DFW area, and a smidgen as to the San Marcos and Austin area. That only Club Sapphire and the SeaTac area from the time frame more so of 2014 through 2018, 19-ish. As to whatever claims from the state of Texas, Illinois, whatever claims, as well as the tri-state area, whatever claims, along the East Coast all the way down to Florida, whatever claims, Club Sapphire and SeaTac from 2014 through 2019 as to what combinations of in this very condensed time compared to the decades of as to how, more so 2000 onward regarding the after effects of my head injury, though the personality of who I am still the same. So the SeaTac area, more so though to the Club Sapphire area, you have the patterns of behavior regarding Old Tenet Presbyterian Church, despite the age difference. Same thing in regards of the Asher Holmes Elementary School and Marlboro Middle School, Marlboro High School, and St. John Vianney High School. Though additionally in regards to Club Sapphire, most specifically from 2015 through 2018, 19-ish, you have the 5 boroughs in New York City, the New York State area that you can refer to in this short amount of time. Then also Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Lancaster, but also the overall Pennsylvania state. This amount of time from 2014 through 2018, 19-ish, you have that in regards to the SeaTac area, the 2015 to 2018 and one point in time in 2019, as to that specific condensed reference as to how I am and have been. Because you also have all of these combined factors. So then you also have the state of Illinois, whether in Crystal Lake as far as high school or whatever surrounding areas, all the way out to Chicago, and yes, including when having gone to Ohio most specifically, though my trips in reference to having gone from and to Chicago, though additionally the Iowa to and through Illinois after how that went, but Indiana and then Ohio and back. So the Washington State, SeaTac area, Club Sapphire, most specifically though for that condensed, consistent amount of time. To whatever patterns of behavior. So when in regards of 2019, in June, onward through December of 2019. Well, that's a little bit of a switch regarding what had to be taken care of, and yet you see the exact same patterns of behavior, because in regards of 2019, June, more specifically July of 2019 through December of 2019, each person throughout the state of Texas as to their choices and their patterns of behavior, as to whatever was before, whether in scuba diving in the civilian sector, whether in reference to Clear Springs Scuba Park and or the Austin area, as to, well, Lake Travis and Aquarina Hot Springs in San Marcos. You have that in just the time frame of July through December of 2019. Then you have January through December of 2020 regarding the overall aspects. Now, yes, I had to clarify in regards to Washington State first because I already knew. It's reality. I already clarified that. And the honesty situations, I had been honest from the start. Individuals who did not know me or know of me officially in person, face-to-face in person, in the area of most specifically Club Sapphire. Yeah, sure, maybe they knew of me, possibly, as far as my Lady Dory Bell aspects. Maybe they knew of Susan Mealing, but possibly more so the Lady Dory Bell. However, what you wouldn't know is what San Antonio at Temple of Flesh and the Sanctuary would know. But also in Austin, anytime there was an identification card check, which automatically would translate to, including regarding payments, because of, so there's my legal name. And so because Club Sapphire, having that specific, I can only tell the truth. Not hiding anything, not pretending. I obviously acknowledged when it was brought up in an overall way. Didn't hide it at all. It was like that. I'm sure whoever in the vicinity of would be capable to say it was probably quicker than they thought it was going to be, as far as my response. If they had any whatever exterior individuals as to whatever claims in that hypothetical from whatever area of the United States of America. So you have those patterns of behavior. Then you have 2020, January through December. And that time frame as to each individual, whether in person, face-to-face in person with me, or whatever online. You have those factors to take in consideration as to those patterns of behavior, which each area would be capable to clarify and verify. Then you have the time frame of January through December of 2021. For those patterns of behavior, as to that overall combined, again, throughout the United States of America, depending whether in person, face-to-face in person with me, and or through whatever aspects of online. Then, January of 2022, then February of 2022. Now, in those patterns of behavior regarding everybody else, that's everybody else. However, while there are certain similarities, here is, in my opinion, acknowledging my own biases to my opinion, here is a different factor, and yet possibly similar. February of 2022. In the combined time frame of events to medical hold unit. Whatever exterior portions of to the East Coast areas overall. To February. Then March of 2022. Then April of 2022. Now it's the 2nd of May 2022. What would be considered humanity as to myself in regards of the time frame from February into March into April of 2022. I'm sure there are references, but is it the interpretations of, and which interpretations of? After being honest, as far as myself being honest, what patterns of behavior for the entirety of can be taken into consideration in reference to February from the time frame at Liberty Science Center in the year of 2022. So you have the knowledge. It has been since 1998 since I have seen the evening skyline of New York City. There are people who kind of know the daytime skyline of New York City from New Jersey, but the most memorable of the skyline to New York City from New Jersey has always been and always will be the evening skyline. So, 1998, from a specific location that I would know, not just because of going to Liberty Science Center, yes, during the daytime, more specifically, the tunnel. That tunnel nearby is the specific viewpoint of the evening skyline in New York City as to the view while being in New Jersey. That is the key. So, in that reference to the combined factors, up to the point of February 2022, what has been clarified and verified to my accuracy as to percentage. So then you go into the emotional factor as to what I have dealt with on my own. Because where everybody else has had whatever length of time that they themselves have had to seeing that skyline from whatever location they would remember best as to the evening skyline view of New York City, whichever angle, whether Pennsylvania or New Jersey, depending who you are, or even New York State. You've had whatever length of time to process that. I've had since February of 2022. The middle-ish of February. Not even the beginning. And February is the shortest month of all throughout a year's cycle. So I don't even have the 30 or 31 days. It is cut short because of 28 days. Yes, there's a leap year. This is not a leap year, obviously. So now, what does that translate to? What is humanity? What is actual compassion? What is genuine concern for the actual best interests for me? Because by those patterns of behavior, as to whatever amount of proof to the clarifications and verifications thereof, if there have been any complaints, whining, temper tantrums, etc. Well, why so? When you take in consideration how I've still maintained taking care of my responsibilities, what patterns of behavior would be taken in consideration? What levels of humanity would truthfully be capable to be noticed? What aspects of? Because if there was the genuine care and concern, what is humanity? What is the importance as to anyone I once knew in person, face-to-face in person? Though, what is that important key to keep in mind? That in person, face-to-face, in person. That's the important factor. So anybody who has had any opinions to their feelings, because that accuracy percentage, what actual proof of genuine, truthful, honest aspects? Because you gotta follow those 10 commandments. What have I had in the capacity of? In truth. So those civilian recreational scuba divers and or whatever capacities of that had their opinions regarding my scuba diving style as to my background that they didn't know, what accuracy level have those people proven of themselves to their patterns of behavior in comparison to my accuracy level and my patterns of behavior that would be capable to take into consideration as to the proof? Which, again, similarly to 1998 to 2022, in regards to the evening skyline viewpoint from a location I would recognize, with the acknowledgement of my memory deficits and cognitive disorders, as well as the after effects of my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000, which would obviously be in reference to the pain. What aspects from 1984 through 1997, as well as 2003 and 2004, as well as 2011, into 2019 would be the consideration regarding my scuba diving time frame and my work, most specifically as to that 3-volume book series, The Adventures of Susan Mealing, Scuba Diver Extraordinaire. What would be important to that to take in consideration in comparison to the hypothetical regarding civilian recreational scuba divers, specifically those instructor types, in comparison? And or any individual as to the irony of irony. If you are active duty National Guard reservist and or veteran, well, when have you been told certain factors? So why would you think that you would be an expert in comparison to my background? Not in any offense, not in any disrespect at all. It's that portion that's really important, because what amounts of education did you need to be capable, and what levels of information did you need in comparison to experience? Because I'm fairly certain there's a few people who have brought up how important experience is and how integrity and truth matter. Not just myself, obviously. So in those clarifications and verifications, most specifically from 2019 to now in 2022, as far as my journal blog, The Ornery PSA, on my website, www.susanmealing.com, with the knowledge and understanding and comprehension that I have always had about my books as to the differences regarding the genres. How important is that to any claims and patterns of behavior to take in consideration? Because again, what is compassion? What is humanity? What is important about it as far as truth and integrity? A lot I'm going to say for this lecture in my official YouTube video. Again, please do like and share the link for my official YouTube video as to my official YouTube channel. So there's obviously the situations regarding my biological mother, biological father, and biological sister. And so while, yes, I know there are some people who have sibling rivalry. And then there's what I dealt with in comparison, which Asher Holmes Elementary School and Old Tenet Presbyterian Church would know far better in the comparisons as to the difference between a sibling rivalry and then what was dealt with in regards of my biological sister and I. But where did she learn from? My biological mother is the answer for this lecture. Because what would my biological mother and her siblings have as to that knowledge and that understanding as to those patterns of behavior, as well as their ex-boyfriends, ex-girlfriends, spouse, whatever aspects of, to those extensions. And those patterns of behavior in comparison. Because then, what is wrong with assumptions? What is wrong with not acknowledging your biases? What needless problems are caused by that? And what lack of responsibility has been capable to be found as to the proof of patterns of behavior to the lengths of time? Because, well, yes, I can give the reference of what I learned from. That's the important key there. What I learned from. I didn't imitate, because imitation is not the sincerest form of flattery. I learned. That's a difference. It's important. I learned from. So while they may not like their recognition, I still learned. I've given recognition with as much etiquette as I can while being as respectful as I can. By all accounts. In truth. Realistically. In that definition, terminology of, in each way possible, I have given as much respect in the most etiquette way that I possibly could. Especially when you take in consideration those patterns of behavior. So, in regards of my patterns of behavior, in comparison to such hypothetical, wrongful, blasphemous, vain, false representations of accusations wrongfully, possibly even illegally against me, what are the legal ramifications in those justice references for my son, my daughter, and I, individually, as well as our family? Regarding. So that's something to take in consideration. And remember. So while those people hypothetically have whatever issues, have they at any point in time paid attention to those facts as to the difference in time from 1998 through February of 2022? On top of whatever other lengths of time and patterns of behavior. So sure, maybe I've had a few rightful aspects because I can tell the difference between my physical pain, because I deal with that. Other people don't actually deal with my physical pain. It's the facts. I physically deal with it. So then there's the emotional situations regarding February 2022 to now. What is humanity? What is compassion? What is actual support in that way, in comparison Because in those references, what levels of actual support, because even in biblical scriptures, what does it say about human beings? So sure, technically I'm not alone, because I live where I live, technically. But that in-person, face-to-face, in-person difference. And what is the difference in regards of technology pieces in comparison to a human being? In-person, face-to-face, in-person with another human being. Because that's where humanity is. If there's compassion. If. So, what considerations are there of that instead? So while there's been all sorts of reformations for so many others, oh great, awesome. What's the difference? As to myself and what I've dealt with. Because how hypocritical would it be for anybody to ever claim certain things regarding certain types of situations, and then what is it that I have dealt with? And what is it that I have actually done in comparison? What have I been wrongfully accused of in those additional factors? What has the accuracy level been of myself in comparison to the accusations in those hypotheticals? And with the additional proof as to anybody who, in regards to not just the Geek Squad laptops and stuff like that and all that, but then, patios. Is that something that I thought I brought that up before. Although I also figured other people had common sense in regards of how my house was, regarding my back patio. That was where I worked on things. Same thing in reference to any apartment I lived in. Especially from the time frame of 2004, there is that. And we're 2005 regarding the first separation. Then there's the apartments in regards of, well, a few, 2011, and then 2012, and then 2013 into 2014 regarding that. So what would be important about that to take in consideration regarding all those needless problems as to all those needless involvements without ever having been asked? Because especially regarding my scuba diving, what problems have I needlessly dealt with because of other people thinking as to whatever their thoughts in comparison? That's what have I dealt with, as to what accusations, and etc., and what levels of accuracy. Additionally, have I needlessly had others as to their feelings? Because if they have only used the word feelings, if they have not distinguished from their feelings to opinions as to biases, to emotional aspects, if they cannot distinguish between these different factors, as I have more so clearly in my updates from 2019 to 2022, what then into those particular references to take in consideration. It's to my journal blog, The Ornery PSA, on my website, www.susanmuling.com. So, where have I ever actually done anything wrong? Have I actually? Especially, the proverbial saying from the Bible, "You without sin cast the first stone." So it goes back to that whole, if you don't like my saying, well, so what? Are you gonna try to pretend that you haven't said and or written worse? And or done? I mean, that's kind of common sense when you really think about that. Kind of be really weird for people to ever, like, if they've ever done worse than what I've done, wherever that would be, to ever have problems with my words. That kind of be really weird. That common sense. Just point that out there. Just saying. So while some people might have whatever opinions, well, again, distinguishing between opinions, do you have the capability of acknowledging the difference of your opinions to your feelings, to your biases, to the emotional capacities? Can you distinguish that? How important is that when making choices? So, well, sure, I've been dealing with everything on my own. Because, that is as it is. Cards up. Sure, the saying is, we're all in this together. Sure. I mean, by on Earth, yeah, okay. By technicalities. So yeah, okay. In some capacity. And then, there's other situations. And so, yeah, okay, no, that is as it is. So technology-wise, yeah, definitely, I will agree with that. That is one area I can 100% agree with. Yes, we are all in this together. Absolutely. Especially with the updates regarding the merger. Absolutely. I absolutely concur. In that reference, that is the only way that I can, in an official capacity, agree. Yes, in the merger capacities between T-Mobile and Sprint and AT&T, which made T-Mobile. Actually, so for those who don't know, AT&T, which once was Ma Bell, so Ma Bell had gone to AT&T and then Western Union in some areas, and then it went to the way it did. But then there's the cell phone company, because AT&T used to be a landline. For those who don't know, AT&T used to, so Ma Bell did the party lines, for those who know what I refer to, regarding the actual landlines, laying down the landlines. That's Ma Bell. Ma Bell laid the landlines down. So all those cell phone towers, but also internet towers and cable. I mean, it's literally cables that are laid down. So there's that. So AT&T, the landline, as far as individual phone lines, and then cell phone companies, which certain cell phone companies, as far as actual providing compared to the actual cell phones themselves. So the way you can look at the difference is there's AT&T, and for the longest time, iPhones only were through AT&T. Well, there's the reverse regarding quite a few companies where they used to actually provide cell phone service, but they just had their phone. Well, their companies went, and usually they just have the phone now, but they go through AT&T and or Verizon and whatever other ones of those, but they, but there's still AT&T and Verizon, which AT&T made T-Mobile. Like, that is a company that it made. And then the lines and all that. So all that's software. Okay. Sprint and Verizon were realistically the only companies that did not have that for a while. But AT&T had a merger with Verizon. T-Mobile and AT&T kind of split, but Sprint remained on its own for the longest amount of time compared to the other companies. Sprint literally is the longest cell phone company that did not actually do any mergers until what's coming up now. And so Sprint is going to merging with T-Mobile, which was created by AT&T. And so the cell phone version of Mobile, for that reference. And then also, like, Verizon has streaming, AT&T has streaming, internet, hotspots, etc., as well as cell phones. And then the Appy program on those cell phones. So from 2009 through 2013, considerations, and then so on and so forth. So I've done as best as I could to clarify and verify myself, my choices, my actions. Those patterns of behavior are capable to be found in those particular references. And so yes, for the first time since 1998, I saw the evening skyline from a specific location that I would know it. February of 2022. And today is the 2nd of May, 2022. So, my biological mother, biological father, and biological sister officially removed themselves, not just in an emancipation way, but because of the way they chose to handle things after 2001. Officially, they don't have any rights when it comes to me, and or my son, and or my daughter, but they officially removed themselves when they chose to go back to New Jersey, knowing that I did not want to move from New Jersey to Illinois. My biological sister, by that time, would have been considered capable for quite a few things, obviously known. So those factors, by those choices, as to those separations. So I don't know if other people took that in consideration, but for each time that they chose to go back to New Jersey was another time and another time that they, for each situation, go into that pattern of behavior. So for that consideration, make sure to, if you're going to comment in any of the videos that are my recordings, and my recordings are for my official YouTube channel, for my official YouTube videos, for my official YouTube video links of my official YouTube video channel, because of my work. Because those individuals removed themselves. They didn't have my permission. Because of that sponsor situation and legalities up. Same thing regarding my ex-in-laws. So, go check out my website, www.susanmeeling.com, and look around as to the different aspects of. And again, my work. And so if you're going to leave a comment in the comment section of any of my videos that I recorded, which my videos that I recorded are for my official YouTube video channel, which obviously this is a lecture in that reference of. No other angles in those hypotheticals count because of actually the legalities of where the outside is, which would translate to not being inside because of those legalities. And so my recordings are my intellectual property, because the audible portion is my intellectual property rights, because it's from my experiences, which is my ownership of, because of my work. And so, please do have etiquette and respect in those capacities. It's important to remember those factors. So in the state of Texas, you're supposed to stand your ground law. Well, I have been for decades, before I ever even heard of the state of Texas, by those patterns of behavior of proof. So you have a good day, and smile. Again, the 2nd of May, 2022. Oh wait, my mistake, I forgot to change that over, whoopsies. 2nd of May, 2022. Get that correct, my mistake.